And today we would like to continue another program sponsored by the Burnham Foundation, State of the Nation. Today, for the last 4 programs, we have been looking at specific issues in relation to Forbes Burnham during the time of his administration. Today, specifically, our topic will be culture. I have a guest who is not here as yet, but I am sure he'll be here in a few minutes, and that is Mr. Jonathan Adams. He will be talking specifically about Burnham and culture. Along with me in the studio today is Mrs. Julianne Gaul, who is the Vice Chairperson of the Burnham Foundation. For last year, we have conducted a number of activities in relation to the foundation. And for this year, we also plan to have a number of activities to observe the Burnham Foundation. So, viewers, I would like to take this opportunity to ask the Vice Chairperson to bring you up to speed with those things that we have addressed, say for last year for the Burnham Foundation, and to also talk about those activities, including a cycle race and church service and concert and all those other things that we have planned for this year, for those persons who still remember and still share a closeness to those good things that Burnham did during the period of his administration. And I would like you yourself to support us in these ventures come the month of August and February. So I would like to invite Ms. Julianne Gaul to give us some details as to what we actually did for last year and what we intend to do for this year, including a publication of his speeches, the first in the series. That's part of our plan for this year. So, Julianne, I want you to just tell our viewers what we have done and what we intend to do for this year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hines, and thank you for having me on the program. I'm here really to speak on some of the upcoming activities of the foundation for next month. As we all know, next month would be the 89th birth anniversary of our founder leader and late executive president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. On the 19th of February at 7 a.m. we would be having our annual cycle road race. That would be from Georgetown to Belfield and back. Later in the morning, or on the 26th, that it would be the next Sunday, we would be having a church service. That would be at the Methodist Church in Kitty Methodist Church. And we have chosen that church, as most of you would know. Our founder leader is from Kitty, and he would have also attended that church. And as such, we thought we'll go there to observe this year's birth anniversary. Later in the day, on the 26th, we'll have a concert at the Theatre Guild, starting at 5 p.m. And we're asking for a modest contribution of $500 towards the concert and the foundation, but we would not restrict you to the $500. If you feel generous and you would like to make a additional contribution, you can feel free to do so. You can contact members of the Burnham Foundation. You can also check us out on our Facebook page and our website.
Yeah, Julianne, what specifically in relation to the concert at the Theatre Guild? What type of concert? Is it a variety concert or is it a concert with a specific focus?
It is a variety concert. The organizer, as you know, is Mr. Vincent Alexander, and most of you who are familiar with the 5-0 concerts, what type of items we have on those concerts, it would be a similar feature. We'll be having a lot of singing, drama, some poetry. Nice, relaxing evening for, young people and older folks, senior folks. Come and celebrate and, enjoy a nice evening of musical interlude. We'll have Mr. Hines there doing his thing with his group, as usual.
The Circle of Love.
Circle of Love.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Julian. I wanted to say to our viewers, last week, which was the fourth, say, Sunday of the month, ought to have been the date that we should have had this program. But we recognized that there were 5 Sundays in January. And so we decided to put it on the last Sunday in January with the hope that we will be able to deal with this specific topic that we'll be dealing with today. And like I said before, today's topic is we're dealing specifically with Burnham and culture. For the last few programs we have dealt with Burnham and public education, Burnham and economic kind of policy and development. We have dealt with Burnham and foreign policy, Burnham and security. Those are all topics that this program have covered. But today we want to look at culture. Mrs. Gaul has just outlined our program that we intend to do for the month of February. For, say, last year, a few of those items that I've just outlined are all items that we've addressed on this program. And this program is geared towards sensitizing and at the same time informing our population about Forbes Burnham, the things he stood for, and the things which we feel ought to be brought to the fore so people can know about the quality of this man who has been voted the Caribbean leader of the 20th century. Today on the program, like I said, I have my friend here today, Mr. Jonathan Adams, and I would like to ask him to start on this question of Burnham and culture. First of all, possibly if you can give us a little broad view as to what culture is and then try to narrow it down to see those issues that Burnham specifically addressed during the time of his leadership in Guyana.
Okay, excellent, Clayton, and thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be talking about the great man. I'll give a working understanding of what culture is. Yes, culture is government, first of all. Among other things, there are elements of culture, and one of the elements of culture is government, how we govern ourselves. Then there is the aspect of the provision of our basic and our higher needs. That's another aspect of culture. When I say basic needs, I mean feeding ourselves, clothing ourselves, and housing ourselves.
Yes.
When Burnham spoke about FCH, I don't think that the nation understood that what the man was doing is trying to give us a new culture. And then there's another aspect of culture, which is identity.
Yes.
The aspect of identity, which is made up of names, the names that you carry, your spirituality, your values, your signs and your symbols, your dances, how you celebrate and how you mourn. And then there is, this is a subset of the rest, your education. It's how you pass these values on, etc., your education. The changing up of your values and the rearranging of the system, of your overstanding of the system or understanding of the system. It depends upon whether you're dread or not.
Okay.
Or not. So that, in a sense, is an overview. I've listened to you very carefully. I didn't hear the other programs, but many aspects of culture were covered in the previous week. Weeks.
Yeah.
Education, economics,
public education,
and
foreign policy, and
etc. That all of those are how you govern yourself. But I think that what we can focus on today is culture and identity.
Okay.
I didn't hear you mention that, but out of the various working components of culture, we can take identity. And one of the first aspects of identity that we sought to establish, that Burnham sought to establish for this nation, was that the culture of the nation had to reflect the various peoples of the nation.
various ethnic
the
groups.
various ethnic groups of the nation. And that, I think, is very, very important to the establishment of the soul, establishment of the identity of the nation. I've been listening to the debate that was raging in Trinidad recently with Kamala Besessa going to India and either bowing to kiss the foot of the Indian Prime Minister or something like that, and Keith Rowley jumping up and shouting, well, you know, you're representing a set of Trini. You're representing...
Who are not necessarily Indians.
You're representing Indians. But what Rowley doesn't understand, what Rowley does not understand, based on the comments which came out after, is that what predominates in Besessa's mind is her identity with India and not Trinidad.
Okay.
I think Rowley doesn't understand that, and so that is the reason why she would not have seen anything wrong with kissing that woman's foot. And then the that particular grouping in India coming out. But that is what Burnham tried to give us, a Guyanese identity. In that, notwithstanding the fact that we are of African ancestry, Indian ancestry, European, Portuguese, Amerindian ancestry, that a particular new form, a new nation had come into the world, and that nation had a new soul, which was composed of all of the various groups that made up the nation. And so that particular identity, one of the first things one of the important aspects of that identity was the Amerindian contribution to the development of Guyana. And so we had something which was called Mashramani.
Yes.
And then we had, concomitant with Mashramani, was our Republic Day, which was on the 23rd of February. So we had the big celebration and the Republic Day being on the 23rd of February, and actually what the nation has lost in its identity is the meaning of our Republic Day being on February 23rd. And that is the aspect of struggle within our nation, and the struggle by which the Africans contributed greatly to the freedom of this nation. That aspect of our identity is lost. The contribution of Africans to the development of this nation. And then Burnham did what I think is something that helped to endear me to the man. He took Indian holidays and made them a part of the nation's soul. And so we've got Diwali, and we've got Pagwan, we've got Eid ul-Fitr, and we've got Eid ul-Adha, as part of the nation's soul, where the whole nation withdraws from work and reflects on the values inherent in these days, and which belong to, on the one hand, Indians, Hindus, and on the other hand, Muslims.
Yes.
So we've got the Amerindians, we've got the Africans, we've got the Indians, all contributing. Now, what is interesting is that the first president of this country was a Chinese.
Yes.
And so everybody had a stake, had a share in the shaping of the soul, in the appearance of the nation. And it is in that context that Burnham sought to give this country its peculiar identity. But then we come to, let us say, there's one aspect of culture which I pointed out, how we celebrate, how we mourn, our education, our dances, etc., etc. Burnham sought to give this nation a peculiar identity through arts and culture.
Yes.
There is the anomaly of Philip McClintock.
Yes, a dancer.
Probably
I
the
remember.
best Kathak dancer this nation has ever seen.
maybe one of the best in the Caribbean, if I dare say, because he was sent specifically
Who was sent to India to learn Kathak dancing.
Kathak dance, right.
Now, whatever was the stroke of genius of Burnham to choose an African to go to India to learn Kathak dancing had to be rooted in the man's consciousness and his deep understanding of history. I think Burnham was trying to say to this nation that, look, we need to cross boundaries
Of ethnicity.
to build this nation. Here, I would like to pause to come off of that the aspect of the whole identity of the soul, to point out from my personal experience two experiences I had which came out of what Burnham was trying to do with us as a people. Once I attended a youth conference in Trinidad, in Barbados, and we were all coming off of the bus. The Indians came off of the bus. The Africans came off of the bus. But when the Amerindians came off of the bus, and this was not under Burnham, this was under Cheddi Jagan. Burnham had long been dead. Height had lost the elections, and we were under Cheddi. So we went to Barbados to this conference. And when the Amerindians came off the bus, there was a look of consternation on the faces of the Bajans who were working at the hotel. And one of them said, "Yeah, boy, watch them Eskimos." And me not being a Guyanese who had come up in the tradition of the six peoples of the nation, my consciousness as a Guyanese national took over, and I said very firmly to them, they are not Eskimos, they are Amerindians.
Yes.
So I recognized that there was a part of me that was not purely African, but I was Guyanese.
Yeah. Interesting.
And identified with those Amerindians as a part of that national identity which we all went there to represent. But you were going to say, Clayton.
Yes, I was going to point out to you that in the region, we all know the role that Burnham played in fostering cooperation in this region and fostering the development of the Caribbean. But very kind of uniquely, this kind of concept of bringing together all the cultural specialists in the region for an event which we refer as CariFest, which was one of the first festival of Caribbean arts in the Caribbean. And I am still very amazed how Burnham was able to convince leaders of CARICOM that they should organize and hold a festival of that nature in 1972.
Well, you see, I wanted to come to that later, but within the context of the fracturing of the nation, the soul of this nation, which we have seen, which the fissures widen under this current administration and its style. I think it is very, very important for us to get people to understand the contributions that Burnham made to creating quote-unquote unity through identity. I remember being at national service also too. Once you went to university, and that was another stroke of genius, I think. Once you went to university, you did not graduate until you passed the GNS 100, we used to call it.
Yeah, because we used to, in fact, for the national, we had a special program here dealing with national service on the Burnham Foundation, where we had, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it's McLean or Josing or one of those senior operatives in the national service came on this program and spoke on national service.
And I remember, and I think that I will call names because it's true, and it's nothing derogatory. I remember Corporal Howard, who was our platoon corporal, telling one young lady, Anita Sukram, that she had to go to the Friday night lime that we used to have to socialize. And Amrita quietly said, "My religion does not permit me to go to those kind of activities." And Corporal Howard said to her, he said, "Listen, you have to go. This is our policy." And we stood up and we defended Amrita on the basis of her religious argument. We said, "Listen, Amrita is a Hindu, and she's telling you that she's not going to go, she cannot go because of religion. And that was the Africans in the group. Amrita was the sole Indian in our platoon. And the Africans in that platoon stood up and defended Amrita based on our argument that it was against our religion. And so what one sees is even respect and tolerance for others based on their religious basis. Burnham taught us that the intolerance that we are seeing today is contrary to the spirit of the soul of this nation. And so Burnham in that context is very, very relevant to the healing of the nation. But then let me jump on to the issue that you spoke about, Carifesta, National Cultural Center.
Yeah.
I mean, we cannot talk Carifesta without talking National Cultural Center. And I don't think that we can talk Carifesta without talking National Cultural Center, without talking Lavina Williams, the Haitian who Burnham brought down here to create that new body of dancers in this country. But Carifesta, in a sense, goes to the root of Burnham's understanding of what independence means. Burnham's position was that, flag independence is not it. That what we had to do is that we had to rearrange the system and change up our values. Carifesta, for Burnham, meant unifying the Caribbean at the grassroots levels through the cultural medium. Because when artists come together and they sing
or play music,
and they
whatever.
play music, that in itself
Drum,
is a
whatever.
communication, and we bond together. And coming out of culture also affects our political understanding. It affects it charters directions, etc. And so Burnham bringing all of those people here to Guyana at the Cultural Center, unfinished, but with a tarpaulin
Up
at
top.
the top of it,
Right.
because, Carifesta had to be was an indication of the man's breadth and depth of understanding, not only too of identity within the local context, but identity within the wider context of the Caribbean. You see, there's an aspect of Burnham which I heard from Viola about. Notwithstanding the fact that Burnham tried to, and I think successfully was able to influence a number of persons, that Africans, Indians, Chinese, Amerindians, I reserve my comment on Europeans because he was very severe on the European values and their colonizing effects on our minds. He was very severe on their values. That we needed to mold our values into one nation. Burnham also understood, according to Viola, his Africanness. Viola said to us in a meeting, a number of us got together and we hosted an exhibition in honor of his 14th death anniversary at the National Cultural Center. And so we forged a bond with his widow, comrade Viola Burnham. And she said, my husband was angry because his foreparents were ripped out of Africa and brought forcibly and forced to live down here. And so that's an aspect that we may not find in any writings about Forbes Burnham, but when you hear that coming from the man's wife himself, you've got to record it, and you've got to make it a part of the history of this man. And so when Forbes Burnham moved his concept of unity from unifying Guyana to unifying the entire Caribbean, I thought what Forbes Burnham had in his mind was this concept of unifying and solidifying the African presence and the African contribution here in the Caribbean amongst Africans. It is absolutely ironic that Chedi Jagan should have received that award that he received from, I do not recall exactly which country, but it was Forbes Burnham who made who made that significant contribution to the liberation of South Africa, to the liberation of Zimbabwe,
That's right.
to the liberation of Angola.
When we were talking, when on this program, at the time that we were talking about young people, about youth, Burnham and youth policy,
Yeah.
I remember then that Burnham, the young people of Guyana, used to be responsible for those programs that were initiated to bring about this liberation struggle in South Africa. But
Yeah.
that he had asked the young people of Guyana to organize those activities.
I think,
remember that.
and I think I recall distinctly that we used to give to the South African struggle, I think it was $50,000 a year. We used to give to the South African struggle $50,000 a year, and the opposition in them times cost. And they said, look, we ain't even got sufficient money to that, and yet still, when the people called them and gave them the award, they did not have the decency to mention Forbes Burnham's name, the man who was responsible for contributing to that. And then there was his support and his pushing of the non-aligned movement,
Yeah, that's an interesting.
which was a broader concept of rearranging the system and changing up our values and giving us a different identity. You see, all of this is important. All of this is important in the context of what Burnham inherited. And I would really like to sit down someday and talk with people, talk with this nation about the context in which Burnham came to power. Burnham came to power in the context of two, what I would call significant realities, political realities. One was colonization, and two was Chedi Jagan and the PPP. And one has got to read about the hurricane of protest to understand the immediate environment in which Burnham took over this country. And then within the wider context of colonialism, and within the context of holidays, I'm going to speak about colonialism. Colonialism basically said that, listen, the whole of Guyana, whether you're Amerindian, whether you're African, whether you're Chinese, whether you're Indian, we can recognize one set of holy days. We recognize in one religion. Christmas, Easter, Good Friday, etc., etc.
Just the Christian kind of religion. and
Just
the
the
holidays.
Christian religion. Burnham comes along and Burnham says, listen, this ain't gonna be.
We're Guyanese.
We are Guyanese people, and we're Indians, Africans, Chinese, and everybody's gonna have a piece in making up the soul of this nation. And so in that context, Burnham reached out to India. And he reached out to Africa. And he reached out to China. And he reached
Portugal.
out to Cuba. And there's this whole story about his reaching out to Cuba and the bombing of the
The students that were going for
the students
the
who
air
were
disaster
going,
to
not the
study.
Son Chapman, the Cubana disaster. The
Yes.
Cubana disaster. I think that was painful to me as a person, the bombing of that plane, because it was only a few weeks before myself and Norton, I forget what was his first name, he was captaining the Queen's College volleyball team. I was captaining the Indians Educational Trust College volleyball team, and we shook hands only to hear that he had lost his life in that plane. It was sad. But Burnham reached out across the continents and helped and contribute to the development of the non-aligned movement, again, which helped to give Guyana a different identity. So Burnham was forging a broad-based and an all-inclusive identity, which he was giving to this nation. Quite unlike what we get now, that India is alive and well in Guyana, and we got Kamla Bisesa shaking hands across, etc., and bending down, etc. And so this is important, and the nation must understand that we had an era where we developed an identity which was peculiarly Guyanese, as against what we're witnessing today. They ain't got no African in this country who is, qualified enough to be ambassador foreign. It's only Indians.
In actual fact, the programs and activities in the relation to culture, Burnham sought to bring about this wholeness, this single identity of being Guyanese. The activities that you outlined, those actions that he took, particularly in relation to Carifesta, because as I recall, the people from the various nations of CARICOM who participated in Carifesta, we had to have had produced accommodation for them. And the young people of this country who don't ever remember this name, Festival City has been created particularly to accommodate representatives who attended the Carifesta. Those houses, they lived in those houses. And Burnham subsequently gave those houses out to Guyanese.
But you see, Clayton, in the definition of culture, I pointed out that culture includes a component of providing for our basic needs, food, clothes, and housing. Here is this genius of a man coming up with a festival which brings a lot of people to this country, and when they're gone, houses are available for the people of the country.
That's right. And the village, the whole community is named.
Named after that particular event, Festival City. I think that Guyana still is struggling to come to terms with the vision of this man. And you mentioned in your introduction to the part of the discussion dealing with Carifesta, you mentioned the point or your lack of understanding of how Burnham was able to convince.
Yes, I did. I'm always amazed in terms of his ability to get these other leaders to agree on those approaches.
I lived in Barbados for approximately a year in 2002, and there I used to hang out with the Barbadian, the Barbadian culture people, Commission and David Commission and Buddy Laria and Ras Ikel, the quote-unquote Dians of Africanism in Barbados. And there I learned that Barrow, the Barbadian Prime Minister,
Errol Barrow,
used to refer to Burnham as our Prime Minister.
Interesting.
Yes. He used to refer to Burnham as our Prime Minister. So magnificent was the man's contribution to the development of the Caribbean, or the consciousness of the Caribbean, etc., that Errol Barrow used to refer to Forbes Burnham as our Prime Minister.
And Errol Barrow is regarded as one of the icons for Carifta and Carifesta and the Caribbean community. And further to that, I would just want to invite our viewers that you can call us, you can call to make a contribution to this program. On today's program, I have with me Jonathan Adams, a very experienced and rounded person in this idea of culture and its development, and also the vice chairperson of the Burnham Foundation, Mrs. Julianne Gaul, who has already outlined to you what we intend to do for this year on the foundation, our cycle race, our concert, and other activities that we have planned. Maybe a few of you may be interesting to know how you can become a part of this noble movement, the Burnham Foundation. I am hoping that after this program, we'll be able to put in place a mechanism whereby those of you, members of the public who would like to become part of the Burnham Foundation, how you can become a part of this noble movement. And at this stage, I want to invite some of our viewers, if they can call in, because we may have our view, but then out there, the public might be interested to make a contribution as well towards the same program that we're doing today. I see the phones are going. Hello, morning.
Good morning to the panel.
Yes, good
Morning.
morning.
And
Good
special
morning.
morning to Comrade Jonathan.
Yes.
There is no doubt that during the Burnham era, I, as a child, benefited a lot. School, the amount of attention paid to the performing arts during the school, choirs, we all had to play a little instrument and so forth. There's no doubt that one can contribute all of that to Burnham, the dance school and everything else, the Burnham concerts, fantastic. And people who worked with him, Frank Pilgrim, Billy Pilgrim,
Yes.
all
Yes.
these people.
Yes.
But I was at a little session last night, and
Yes.
somebody mentioned, why is the Jamaican identity so strong as opposed to any other in the Caribbean?
Mm-hmm.
And I would like you to address that vis-a-vis our cultural identity and how we deal with it. How do we get it to the level that the Jamaicans, are recognized? Thank you.
You see, my sister.
Well, thank you for calling. In the broad outline that Jonathan was giving, I think he attempted to go in that route, but maybe I'll give him a chance to respond to that comment in terms of the strength of the identity of the Jamaicans as against those of the Guyanese.
Okay, I think that it's ironic. It is interesting that if you, let us say about 20 years ago, you went to England,
I'm going to.
there were two sets of people who stood out: the Jamaicans and the Guyanese, and especially the conflicts and the solidarity that they used to have. Siaga, let's jump to the point. Siaga spent a lot of money behind developing reggae music, internationalizing reggae music, and actually branding it. You know, the Trinidadians had to fly down to Japan the other day to take back steel pan from the Japanese. Because the Japanese looked at this thing and they said, wow, we could make millions of dollars, and they attempted to patent the steel pan. And so Trinidad itself took it upon themselves to tell to the world, listen, steel pan is we own and we gonna benefit from it. Siaga did the same for
With reggae
reggae
music.
music, which is the vehicle, so to speak, of the spreading of Jamaican culture, apart from the natural confidence of the Jamaicans. And that is what I would offer as being responsible. You see, when Burnham died, money into the arts basically died.
That's it. That's it. The phones are going. Morning.
A very good morning to you. Nice cold rainy morning. Isn't it looking very well? Hi, Jonathan. Happy New Year.
Hey, how you doing? Happy New Year.
Blessed and highly favored. I wanted to talk a little for the ladder cars during Carifest in 1972. When those cars were brought in, especially to transport people who came for Carifest. So, we don't have transportation issues like we have for all the other Carifests. I went to 3 Carifests in Trinidad. They tried it 3 times, and they have never reached that standard in 1972. And even while I was there, people were talking that 1972 in Guyana was the best Carifesta ever.
It was the first one too.
And that they have not been able to equal it. And when we went to the first one in Trinidad, there was a racist issue where we were saying, well, if the Indians had run it, it would have been different, but we never had in 1972 because we all came together as one, as Johnson was saying, the soul of the nation.
Yes.
And in Trinidad, the first time as well, Jonathan, Jamaica and Guyana were at the top. The drama.
Of cultural awareness, right?
Yes, yes.
And it's
So I just wanted to make that contribution to say, very interesting program. I hope this is not the only one. And you guys have a wonderful, and girl, have a wonderful day.
all right. Thanks for calling. Thank you.
Yeah, there was no way under Forbes, Burnham, that you were going to have that kind of racial bifurcation. And in fact, Burnham had an affirmative action policy in this nation. There was no team that used to leave this country that was all black. You have to have a representation
I see the phones are going, Jonathan.
of the others.
Morning, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning. I think the false understanding we get is about socialism. Burnham did all these things as a socialist, and we were fooled into dismissing socialism. Jamaica's socialist, and he said, killing me the ways, another Rasta can take my place. Real Rasta like Bob Marley. Bob Marley, they come up, And Tiago got nothing to do with this. Tiago's a pirate. We African people run our own things all the time. And we are homegrown, totally homegrown, totally local, totally no regret. But our intellectuals get marginalized for people with cuckoo degrees. Burnham said, these clothes house guy, cuckoo degree people is bureaucracy, and the white man made bureaucracy to control the people's taxes. We're supposed to go to promoting peace clothes house, and instead it goes to paying bureaucrats. I know the thing. I went to school with Burnham, and I know what's going on, and the black nation's a false nation and a fraud. Because the people who getting paid in the system, all they're doing is keeping the system up. All the things that Burnham did in the education, it hasn't produced anything for us. We're not making noise, we're not chanting anything. And I talk about we African people. We are not selling nothing after what Burnham said. We're not even making prunes and grapes and all that. Few people are selling their fruits in bad drink. But the whole international capitalism, we brought in every them carbonated drinks and them poison drinks, it could be cancer and all them kind of thing and diabetes. Instead of we doing our food drink. We from Africa, and we all be from Africa, we from nowhere else, and until they respect the black intellectual and have the Burnham Institute of Culture and Science in there and not for degrees intellectual system that white man creates, you will never find the black intellectuals. Burnham had all these degrees and he knew very well that this is not it. This is from the 60s. This is to run bureaucracy. This is not to educate and feed people. That's why at the conference that Abda had on the 15th, it was admitted, not by me, I used to say 2%. It was admitted by those who speak on economics that black people only control 3% of the economy in this country. Chinese and Portuguese control 30%. That's not my speaking, right? I think it's Mr. Ellis Phillips. And that Indians control 40%. We cannot speak of Burnham if we only control 3%. Burnham is useless to us because it was made useless by errors. And you see, if you don't admit the errors are errors of judgment. And
all right.
Judgment is
all right, thank you. Which mean that what you're actually saying is that the ideas of Burnham are still very kind of relevant.
This is life from the beginning.
All right.
The youth are perished, and the Almighty said by the extent of the right brother literally eat bread.
Okay.
It's the exact same words of God he spoke. Produce are perished. What are we producing? Nothing.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
There's an aspect of culture which the Rasta brethren just spoke there about, and that is the aspect of food, and that's another aspect of the culture of this nation. But there's a caller, and let's see.
Yes, there's a caller on the line. Morning, you're on the air.
Yes, a pleasant good morning to you and your host and your guest.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, very good topic we have this morning. I want you to remember that when we started this Carry Festa, there were 4 giants that we could talk about. This our President Burnham. We also had, I think it's Michael Manley, and we had Mr. Errol Barrow.
Yes.
And also Mr. Eric
Williams.
Eric Williams. Those are the 4 icons I can remember that orchestrated our cultural identity that we had, our Carry Festa.
Yeah, the cultural, you can refer to as a cultural kind of revolution in the Caribbean.
Yes.
There was a lesser Eric Gary.
Eric Gary played a part as well too.
Okay, in Grenada.
Yeah.
In Grenada, right.
But he was the less politically correct, as you might call it.
Yes. So, what I failed to realize last year, which was our African year, we didn't see much that the government did for that year that was identified rather for the African people. I think we saw a little the actor did, but the government ought to be the main pillar because they run things.
Yeah, they ought to have been the conduit through which what a very effective program ought to have been in place.
Yes.
But you see, if India is alive and well in Guyana, how you expect them to recognize Africa?
Well, because I guess we had hold back.
You see, I blame us.
Is it?
I blame us.
What I'm trying to find out here, John, is it a misconception of the role of culture in the whole psyche of the nation? Is it a misconception? I'm wondering whether if that has anything to do with.
And under the,
I believe so.
you see, under the PNC, this disrespect would never ever have occurred to any
True.
of the ethnic groups in this country.
True.
I mean,
Well,
it's
Colin,
something that I'm.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's an area where I think I myself share some closeness to the comments of the caller, where a year that has been identified, the International Year of People of African Descent, very little, which I share closely.
I mean,
to
the
culture.
disrespect shown to African people in this country by the way in which this government treated that would never ever have occurred under Burnham, not even Height. You remember Genesis of the Nation that was organized by the PNC?
Let me take the other
This
call.
other person got to say.
Yeah, thank you. Morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, sir. I am so very, very, proud to see that somebody has come out mentioning Forbes Burnham's name, because it seems like if it was erased in Guyana,
No, it's not.
everything that was done, they just tried to exclude him. And he did everything for us. Culture was at its highest at the reign of Mr. Burnham. And I think that this foundation, this commemoration foundation that you have started would be very, very good, because it will somehow let the young people know what was going on and what he did. Because nothing is being said of the things that he has done. He tried to encourage small industries and so
That's
on,
right, that's right, that's
so
right.
that encourage work, things work for the local people, the underdogs, the grassroots people. He tried to bring us together. We had no identity like, you're an Indian and you're a black, and in those days you had to stand in a line. If it's a line, everybody did that. Nobody segregated themselves. And I saw that we really had a sort of unity there, but now we have none. But anyway, I'm glad that you're doing it, and whatever it is, I'll try to find out and
Play your part.
contribute.
Yeah, what I'm saying to the public is that thank you very much for your call. We're trying to keep the ideas and the views of Burnham alive in this nation. And those members of the public who are interested, sometime along the line, during the course of next month, we will be putting out some information as to how you can make a contribution towards the foundation, how you can participate in these various programs and so on that we intend to have during the year.
You see, Clayton, I want to interject something again about Burnham and the forging of unity. And this is true Viola. Viola said to us in that meeting that we had with her. She said she didn't understand the man, One morning, about 2:30, there was a knock on the door. The security said, Forbes, they got some people, comrade leader, they got some people downstairs who want to see you. It was a set of Indian fishermen, farmers, the coker, the break, and the water come in. And they came to tell Forbes that the coker broke. And Forbes went back upstairs and told her, he said, listen here, these men downstairs tell me the coker broke. I'm going and sit down with them. I'm going with them. She said she lie down in the bed alone, and she said, what kind of man is this? He left me in this bed alone and gonna sit down for coker with men. And he didn't go back there he didn't go back home until the coker was fixed.
You got the engineers and those who are responsible to have it done.
Fixed. That's
Anyway,
the man. People don't know about this. This nation don't know about the man.
I see the lines are going. Morning, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning. Welcome you to your panel.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay, I have one comment to make. Concerning this PPP, right? They always seem to say Chetty Jack is the father of the nation. I mean, that is really nonsense. How Chetty Jack could be the father of the nation? They don't have nothing to say with Burnham. They just ask Chetty. Burnham died, Chetty just turned the father of the nation. What Chetty has done in the years to make him father of the nation. Burnham's a statesman, and he's the father of the nation. I thank you.
Yeah, you. Thank you for your call.
But you see, notwithstanding that, one has got to give Dr. Chetty Jagan respect for starting the nationalist movement, which drew Burnham in, but Burnham was the person who inherited. But we cannot leave Chetty out. It was Chetty who, through the PCD and etc., started the nationalist movement.
He recognized that there was a need for him to create this awareness to his people. And as a result of his effort, and Burnham was attracted and got deeply involved.
So that within that context, we've got to recognize, but we cannot go to the other extreme. But we cannot forget Chetty. And that is where I think people are making claim to the fact that Chetty is the father of the nation. No. It's Burnham bring independence, it's Burnham bring republic.
Yes, so
don't make you father.
Yeah, okay. I noticed that we're coming a little close to program time, and I'll just take 2 more calls, and then we'll be out until the next 4th Sunday in February, when once again we'll bring you another program of the State of the Nation.
And
I see the lines are going.
Independence and republic shape the identity of this nation. So,
But another thing that we didn't really address, this concept about mass games. This idea about that was a fantastic, perhaps, introduction to the.
But we can't discuss Forbes Burnham in 1 hour.
Morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Jonathan on the panel.
Hey, what's up, Breds? Russ.
Speaking on the first topic, that is the caller calling why a Jamaican is be a Jamaican and a Guyanese, not a Guyanese.
Yeah.
You have African Guyanese and Indo-Guyanese, you cannot have a Guyanese.
Yeah.
So I'm saying you have to change the constitution of the country.
Mm.
Have Indian Guyanese and African Guyanese, as you say. Burnham was trying to integrate the people in Guyana, make them all Guyanese, whether you're Chinese, whether you're Amerindian, whether you're Indian or African, you are a Guyanese. Not the Indian
Just
Guyanese
close
or
up, right.
African Guyanese. That's why a Jamaican stands so strong. As a Jamaican, whether you're Indian, Portuguese, or whatever, you are a Jamaican.
You're Jamaican.
We love Jamaica for that.
Okay. But then you see, Ross, the problem here is that India is alive and well. I don't think Africans got a problem with being Guyanese, but when India is alive and well in Guyana, you got a problem. There's going to be that segregation. I mean, it's time this nation start dealing with its issues.
All right. I want to. Thanks for calling, because we're close to program time.
All right.
I want to take this opportunity to thank our viewers, and I want to invite Mrs. Gaul to make her final comments on this program today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hines. I just want to remind the viewers of our activities to commemorate the 89th birth anniversary of our founder leader, the 20th of February. And maybe you can join us on Facebook. We know that whenever we want to discuss our the leader, it's never enough time within an hour. Maybe we can spend the day having an online discussion on the whole concept and the vision and ideas of our founder leader. Also to remind you that on Sunday the 26th of February we'll be having a concert, and we're inviting you all to come and join us at the Theatre Gaul from 5 p.m. And we'll be having a cycle race also on the 19th of February, and the church service at the Kitty Methodist Church from 7 a.m. and we're inviting you again to join us, the Kitty Methodist Church. And we'll have our annual business meeting also on the 25th of February, and we'll give you more information as it relates to the venue and time for that activity.
It's difficult to talk about Burnham in an hour, Jonathan, but in this case we try to reduce culture. So Jonathan, let me hear your final comments.
Well, Burnham is still relevant to Guyana. We still to catch up. We still to overs what the man was all about. We still need a Rasta man to come again and take his place.
All right. I want to thank our viewers today for allowing us into your homes, looking at this program, and I want to tell you that the 4th Sunday of next month we will be having another program. The topic have not been decided yet as yet, But until that time, we want to thank you for inviting us into your home. So until the next fourth Sunday, I'm your host, Clayton Hines, saying goodbye for now.